Okay, so welcome everybody. Particularly welcome to all those of you that managed to catch up on the fact that we had to defer this by a day, and so we'll be moving along here. This hangout on air is our theme for the week. For those of you on our conference line, you can join those with a number that's on your screen there. And this is, as I said, our theme for the week. This week on Thursday, we'll be discussing this in another open call. And of course, you're welcome to join us. And so now I'm going to take a little bit of a pause here, and then we'll get into it with Tara. Welcome. At the heart of most of our interactions with you lies the following question: how can I create something different in my life? Answer: make a new decision, which leads to, how do I make my new decision stick? Answer: get into alignment with it, which leads to, what is alignment? Answer: when all levels of you are in sync, which leads to, how do I get all levels of me in sync? And that's the question we'll be exploring here today. Let's make our usual disclaimer here. As we explore, we're going to be using so-called real-world examples from this one's world. And it may sound like we're assuming that your world and his world are the same. Well, they're not. They're going to be similar in many respects, given that you're intersecting with him and us in this way. But as we talk through this with you, we do not want to reinforce the idea that you're all creating identically. These examples serve only as ways of thinking about who you are. Your mileage may vary. Last week, we explored the idea that you, the conscious thinking awareness that is engaged with us here, is in charge of everything. That you are the decider in chief. That you are the author of the screenplay of the movie of your life on Earth. Does that mean you're consciously making all of the day by day, hour by hour, and second by second decisions? Well, in fact, you're making almost none of them, because there's much more to you than just you, the conscious thinker. There's your superconscious, in which we're including your subconscious and every higher self part of you, linking all the way back to the collective consciousness of all that is. All of that superconscious is relevant here, because everything you experience, the physical you and the physical world and non-physical worlds around you, are a match to the sum of all those components. It's a mirror of the total you. To get an idea of how it all works, let's start by exploring the subconscious, because that's the part that's closest to you, and it will serve to illustrate how these different parts of you are involved. And let's begin by recognizing three things. Firstly, there are no fixed boundaries between the conscious you and the subconscious you. You can step consciously into that subconscious realm if you want to. Let's look at some examples here with varying degrees of difficulty. Stop breathing for 1 second. Until we said that, your subconscious was breathing you, but you can override that. Try walking to the door and back, and notice that it's choosing where to put your feet. You could override those choices. Say the word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. If you're familiar with the movie Mary Poppins, your subconscious already knows how to say it. If it's a new conscious choice, you can do it, but it takes a bit of focus. Secondly, by the shape of your consciousness that you've chosen, the subconscious you processes things 1,000 times faster than the conscious you. Just for a moment here, notice how much data you get deluged with every second. All the things your eyes see, but you don't consciously notice. All the things you hear and feel, but don't notice. You don't notice them because you've trained your subconscious to ignore until, wait, that's important. When that particular thing happens, pass control back to me. All of those decisions it makes for you. If it didn't, you couldn't walk or talk or drive a car or ride a bike. Practically speaking, you would be unable to function. Thirdly, all the thousands of second-by-second decisions your subconscious makes are delegated decisions. You made a choice and then said, in future, follow that choice. And it does. You trained it to walk, and it walks you. You trained it to talk, and it talks you. You trained it to ride a bike and to drive a car, and it rides the bike and drives the car. You programmed it. We'll go into this in more detail shortly in our longer discussion. But let's briefly look at some examples here of making changes to those programs to get some insight into just how easy or difficult those changes can be. This one was reading this week, the story about a bicycle in which the steering had been reversed by the insertion of a gear between the handle and the front wheel. Turning the handlebars caused the wheel to turn in the opposite direction. The creator of this bicycle then set out to learn to ride it. It took him 8 months. To understand what's going on here, it's important to recognize that he already knew consciously how to do it, even as you did when you learned to drive a car. What takes time is training the subconscious. And in the case of the bicycle, because of the speed with which you need to interact to maintain balance, it can't be done consciously. It has to be a subconscious process. Let's consider the example of someone from the USA flying to London, renting a car, and being required to drive on the other side of the street. If there was nothing about this that your subconscious knew how to do, it would be practically impossible. But most of the driving decisions remain as they always were. There are just some very key ones, of course, for which you need to override what you know and do it differently. It can be done, but until you've retrained your subconscious, it takes all of your conscious focus to achieve it. Are you beginning to see how you and your subconscious are always connected and interacting? Do you get a sense of the sorts of decisions it makes for you every second? Can you see there is no solid boundary between you and it? It is a swirling dance between those two components of you. And yet, you are ultimately in charge. It is your servant. Now let's switch from just including the subconscious, because this dance includes you at all levels. This non-stop connection and interaction is with all of your superconscious. Take a little time out here now to let that sink in. Let yourself be a little in awe of the enormity of who you are. So now let's get to our original question. You make a new choice. How do you get all levels of you in sync? As we've seen in relation to doing physical things, the degree of difficulty of overriding your subconscious varies by the nature of the physical task. Riding the reverse bicycle on a 1 to 10 scale is, let's say, a 10. The London car driving is, let's say, a 7. The hold your breath for 1 second exercise is a 1. The difficulty of making changes in the bigger picture, in which physicalness is just one aspect, is also going to vary by what you want to change. The factors are: how long have you been practicing the old belief? And how important to you is the change you want to make? In other words, how committed are you? If you tried the reverse bike and couldn't do it, chances are you would not be committed enough to practice for 8 months. If you're seeking to drive that rental car in London, the chances are your commitment is very strong. Here are the important things to remember. As with your subconscious and physical things, you can think of all the decisions that are being made beyond the horizon of your conscious thought as delegated decisions. In other words, there is nobody and no entity making decisions for you that you have not made for yourself. There is nothing you cannot be, do, or have, and nothing you cannot change. As we said when we started, you are the decider in chief. We want you to acknowledge here and now to yourself that this is because this is the foundation, and everything builds from that foundation. When you woke up this morning, the world that wrapped itself around you required no focus, energy, or attention. It was there immediately because it's a match to the totality of you. You and it are defined by that tapestry of expectations you've already woven. Ask yourself, what is there about it that you want to change? What are your new desires? Then ask yourself, how practiced is the old belief? Another way of asking this same question is, how do I feel when I choose to expect this new thing about me and my world? Then comes, are you committed to change? If yes, then set that change process in motion. Be aware of how you feel. Stay on course. What you choose to believe becomes. If you choose to believe some things are hard, they will be. If you choose to believe in limits, they will appear and they will limit you. If you choose to believe something external to you is making decisions about you, then you will create an experience that matches that. If you are making choices like these, and you seek further to understand all the hows and whys, the story you weave will start to look like complexity, built on complexity. Down that road, there are no easy answers. We would just say this. At the core of it all, it is simplicity itself. And when you get that, no matter how complex that story you want to weave, you are always able to bring yourself back to the quote-unquote reality that there is no separation between you and your tapestry and your superconscious. We are enjoying beyond what words can express being with you on this fabulous journey, and we look forward to your comments and questions. And now we will continue our discussion on the conference line. For those of you on the Hangout on Air, that number is on your screen.